Hello and welcome. Today we're making over a thrifted magazine holder. Here it is before the makeover, bright pink, carved initials in it, definitely used and abused, probably was made by a kid in shop class. And being a thrifted item, it was full of nasty junk in the bottom. Took my vacuum, vacuumed out the bottom, got all the crud out, made it so much better and cleaner to prep for painting. This wood putty is the exact same color of Pepto-Bismol pink, which really cracked me up. This wood putty will dry to be a wood color, but it starts out pink when it's wet. So here I am covering up these initials that I really didn't need to keep. After the wood putty was dry, I took my sander to it and sanded off the excess. I also took my sander to the other sides of the magazine holder because there were lumps of paint that I didn't want for my coats of paint. I wanted these sides to look a little better and be a little smoother, so I was able to sand down these lumps of paint. Here we can see what the magazine holder looks like after I sanded all the sides, took down those lumps of paint that didn't look very good, even sanded on the bottom of the piece so that those lumps of paint were smoother as well. Is this perfect? No, but it's definitely better. I really love this color, Oceanus by Behr. It has a paint and primer all in one so that I didn't have to prime this piece. And it's really just a lovely grayish blue color and much more calming than this bright pink. I really loved how immediately this new color started calming down this bright pink. I really like this paint. The coverage on it's really good. It surprised me how good it was. It has the primer built in. And as you can see, you cannot even see those initials anymore, which is great because we did not need those anymore. Making progress with basically one coat on most of it except the inside. When I need to save a brush, I wrap it up and I put it in my fridge. That saves it for later. With this project, I knew that painting the inside was going to be a pain because it's a tight space. I found this tiny little roller at Walmart for about $2, and it's really cute, and it's also handy for getting coverage inside this tight space. So it worked all right. I'll have to go back in and do another coat, but it helped me because using a brush wasn't as effective. I had previously used my small 1-inch paintbrush to cut in those corners because a roller doesn't get into corners very well. So I had to do those corners first, and then I could use the roller on the flat surfaces and meet up with that paint in the corner. Our paint is done. It's looking good. I'm loving how it turned out. Got all the sides, got the inside, and painted the bottom as well. And while it's looking good, I felt it just looked a little plain not to have anything on those big sides. So I got my Cricut machine out. I used my Cricut machine to cut out a vinyl stencil. You'll see what it says in a minute. I weeded my stencil and placed it where I wanted it. Here I am applying paint, and I used this little dabber that was pretty handy. You want to make sure that you're applying paint in an up-down motion. If you use a brush and go more side to side, you run the risk of getting more paint underneath the edge of the stencil and having your stencil bleed. So applying paint like this gives you a cleaner edge than otherwise. So I'm taking my time and going over my letters and going over areas again that need it, that didn't get as much paint the first time. If there are real bubbly areas, I go over them again to make them look better. You want to make sure that you get all your corners really well. It's easy to look at those and think, oh, I got them, but they tend to not get as much paint as the rest. So you need to go back over, make sure you hit all your corners, and make sure that you hit areas that didn't get as much paint the first time. So here I am going back over areas that need more paint, and you need to make sure you're not going past your stencil border. It can be a little tricky sometimes, but just take your time and keep applying paint and it'll be okay. When you remove your stencil, you want to make sure that your paint is still a little bit wet, otherwise you run the risk of pulling up your paint with your stencil. So my paint here is still slightly wet, making sure not to touch my paint and smear it, but pulling up my stencil and kind of gathering it in as I go. So here I am using a large pin to peel up the inside of the letters. These parts inside the letters aren't going to peel up when you peel up your main stencil, so you have to go back and get these. I decided to have the other side say artsy in addition to crafty. So here we are with the artsy stencil applied, applying paint. Same techniques with applying paint here, making sure that you get your corners, that you don't go past the stencil onto your surface, and that you are making sure you hit all your areas. And same as the other side, peeling off the stencil when my paint is still slightly wet. And just going nice and slow, making sure I get areas as I go. And just like the other side, here I am taking my large pin and peeling up the inside of these letters. Remember what it looked like before? So very pink. Here is the final reveal, artsy. And on the other side, crafty. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I love this color. The paint worked really well, and I really liked this font and how this lettering turned out with the stencil. Overall, really happy with my project. And now I can hold my crafty projects by my chair. Please like and subscribe. Thank you.